Shalom and welcome to TBN Israel, the podcast. And welcome to everybody from Canada that is here in the studio with us. I hope you guys can see them. Today we're going to talk about 150 to 200 Hamas terrorists that are stuck in terror tunnels on the Israeli side of the yellow line. More than that, we are going to talk about Hamas trying to prevent the moving to phase B of the ceasefire agreement with Israel. We're going to talk about Hezbollah's rearming, rebuilding in the northern part of the border between Israel and Lebanon, and is Iran trying to rebuild its proxy army, and more. Mati, what's up?
We always are concerned that we're going to run out of news someday or another, and reality always hits us in the face. We're living in a very dramatic time in a way that we didn't see coming, but it's in a good way. And I want to say this before we dive into the details. What's been happening now is the death throes of the Hamas organization and the death throes of the Iranian effect in the Middle East. And everything we're going to talk about, from Hezbollah in the north, through Hamas in the tunnels, and everything else that's happening around us, is the power shift that's taking place in the Middle East. The U.S., Israel, and its allies overcoming the Iranian axis of evil. That's really the headline behind everything. But what we're seeing is the symptoms. We're seeing the battle against Hamas. We're seeing Hezbollah in the north. We're seeing several other issues that are playing out, very dramatic. Yeah. And I think the main thing that we're going to open with is Hamas underground. I want to remind people, Hamas have been fighting tooth and nail to prevent phase two of the agreement taking place. Yes, wait, before we start.
Thank you.
Before we start, guys, if you're at home on that camera or that camera, take a minute, pause this video. We'll still be here when you get back. Like, share, and subscribe. And the reason we do that is because our goal in being here is so people hear the truth from Israel.
Exactly.
And the only way for that to happen is organically, that camera, organically for people to share this. We don't promote it with money. We don't do anything like that. It's only when people share it, that's how the truth gets out. And it's been working. So keep doing it, guys.
Yeah, and for all of you here in the studio, make sure to leave your phone outside. We're going to check that all of you are subscribers at the end.
Yeah. By the way, no one who's not a subscriber gets to ask a question. Okay, so what's been happening? Hamas, and we need to explain this. Phase one of the agreement was Israel draws back about half of the Gaza Strip. We get the living hostages and the murdered hostages back.
True.
Hamas gets a ceasefire.
72 hours.
Yeah.
That was 2 weeks ago.
Well, the living ones we got after 72 hours. We got most of the murdered ones, not all, most. And then the phase two was the really complicated one. The one that requires building an international force. The one that requires reshaping the Gaza Strip from civil to military on every single level.
Demilitarizing a terrorist organization that its sole purpose is to destroy the Jewish state from its weapons.
Yes.
And then give the authority to the Palestinian Authority, which is their rivals within the Palestinian system, but not at once. Only after the Palestinian Authority will go a shift to become not corrupted.
Exactly.
So it's multiple layers of very, very complicated stuff.
Not anti-Israel. That's how it's. She need to recognize Israel as a Jewish state.
Yeah. So we're on the road for exactly that. And people might look at this and they'll hear the headlines and say, "Oh, it's not working." No, this is exactly what everyone was expecting. We're expecting Hamas to fight back. We're expecting them to resist being disarmed and removed from the Gaza Strip. It would be a surprise if it didn't happen. Yeah. What we're seeing, though, is, and this is important, is, and we'll get to the people underground in just a second, is...
I'm super hot, Martin. This topic is like very serious.
It makes you get it makes you get all amped up. So what it is Hamas is fighting back against an ongoing international campaign to dismantle all their infrastructure. First, it was the political one outside of the country. Egypt and the Turks and the Qataris, part of the squeeze that was put on them in the original phase of the 20-point plan was exactly that. We will dismantle your international organization if you don't capitulate to the requirement. Then we're doing the things on the ground. And Hamas is pushing back. And the crazy story that's coming out this week, you've been reporting on this extensively, is that there's several hundred Hamas terrorists that are stuck underground in their terror tunnels inside the IDF area.
Can you draw the yellow line that people will understand what really happening?
I think you've talked about this once or twice this week. Yair.
Just a little bit. Also, I've been into Sajaya, into the IDF-controlled yellow line positions inside the Gaza Strip just this week.
It was beautiful.
And no, it's
flowers,
definitely not beautiful. Lots of dust and and it's still a terrorist place because the IDF soldiers are on high alert. We had 3 IDF soldiers that lost their lives because Hamas terrorists just popped out of tunnels in the area controlled by the IDF after the ceasefire agreement was reached. So that's 100% a violation of this agreement. And the IDF was destroying terror infrastructure in the Gaza Strip, in that areas. And the terrorists inside were just left by the Hamas leadership in the Israeli side. And they keep fighting. So we have a ceasefire, but not against all the Hamas terrorists, because we still have a few hundreds on our side. So let me draw you the yellow line, okay? So let's say this was Gaza, okay? If you can see me, okay? So half of it, basically Gaza City, Khan Yunis, the
4%.
major Palestinian cities within the Gaza Strip are in the Hamas-controlled side of the yellow line. So Hamas is now receiving all the humanitarian aid. It is starting to administer all the services that a government used to do to its people. But on top of that, they want to make sure that they're collecting taxes. So they are closing down any kind of shops that are owned by any opposition to Hamas that do not give taxes to this terrorist organization. Moreover, Hamas is trying to train its new recruits because throughout this war, they have lost many, many fighters, thousands and tens of thousands of fighters, and they recruited young Palestinians between the ages of 13 to 16 to join their ranks. But they need to train them now how to operate an RPG, how to operate and AK-47 and other machine guns to prepare for the next round.
They starting
May I say,
kindergarten.
in Islam or in Arabic, the word hudna is a temporary ceasefire or cessation of hostilities in preparation for the next round of fighting. So that's what they're doing now. They're preparing for the next round of fighting. Going back to before October 7, October 6th, Israel had a ceasefire with Hamas. They violated the ceasefire because they felt strong enough, and they were, to launch an attack, an invasion into our cities and to murder thousands of Israelis. So we know who we are dealing with, and that's what they're preparing now. They do not want to give up their arms, and at the moment, the IDF is inside the area of the Gaza Strip, so we have a few kilometers. It's about 5 minutes drive from the old Israeli border to the new yellow line. That's what it is. You need to think about it in terms of Israeli dimensions, not Canada or the United States, that everything is huge. Here, you've been here. You drove all across the country of Israel in 2 hours, right? You've been to the Sea of Galilee, the team that is here with us here, and came to Jerusalem. It takes 2.5 hours. If you have traffic, maybe 3, right? And if you go from the river to the sea, which is the Jordan River, to the Mediterranean Sea, it takes 1.5 hours to drive. We are a tiny country, so there is no time to react if a terrorist entity is launching an attack against Israel. So now we have our forces inside the yellow line, monitoring any kind of movement by Hamas terrorists.
Yeah. So let's get back to what's going on in Gaza Strip. The headline is that there's hundreds of terrorists underground. The story behind that is the fact that that's not a surprise to anyone. Hamas has continued to fight against IDF. They're not actively giving up their arms. They're not actively withdrawing. They're using this interim period between phase 1 and phase 2 of the agreement to try and rearm, retrain, and take over and recapture weapons that were left behind. They're using excuses of we're looking for the bodies of people who were clearly not there. They're bringing from other places. We've seen the footage of that happen. They're looking for the bodies, and it's an excuse to try and gather ammunition, gather weapons, gather explosive materials.
When Mali say bodies, you mean to the
Bodies of the remains
of the remains of the hostages.
Yeah.
So there's this video that circulates a week ago, and it's one of the hostages that's being returned. And Hamas says to the Red Cross, they say, "Come, we found a body."
That was American drone catch this footage.
So
Not even us.
luckily for us, there's a lot of international forces already in the region, because the Americans have been building up an international force that's going to be part of this this new international organization in the region. And they have footage of Hamas digging a hole, bringing a body from another place, putting it in the ground, covering the hole, and then calling the Red Cross and say, "Look, we think we're finding a body here in this place." They knew where the body was all along. It was an excuse to start moving their forces around the ground. So that's what Hamas is doing.
And also to look for caches of weapons.
Exactly.
And the finances that was dug in the ground.
They asked for bulldozers to dig one of the remains, and the IDF captured them opening an old tunnel that got covered.
Look, at least they're consistent. You have to hand it to them.
Yeah.
They're always truthful about what they want to do.
About wanting to destroy us.
They've been consistent with it. You have to hand it to them.
Not lying about it.
Yeah.
But listen, you know why this story came to the news about these 150 terrorists? It's because their families complained that Hamas leadership let them die in the terrorist on the Israeli side.
Yeah, it
And
was
then-
on Al Jazeera. Al Jazeera opened it up. The Qataris hope that there will be a negotiation for their life.
to let them go back to the Hamas ranks without opening fire against them.
Exactly. So that's happening in the Gaza Strip. What that shows you is how much Hamas is pushing back on phase 2. Because phase 2 really is sort of the first big transition that removes Hamas from the ground in the Gaza Strip. Phase 2 is demilitarizing the Gaza Strip. Phase 2 is the entry of an interim, it's called the ISF, the International Stabilization Force, a force that comes in and rehabilitates the Gaza Strip that's made up of international forces plus some kind of clerical
Palestinian police, a
Palestinian
little bit.
something, governance police something of rebuilding the Gaza Strip. That needs to happen. And when that phase is over, which is sometime at the end of 2027, so 2 years into the future, when that's over, Hamas no longer exists as a government in the Gaza Strip. And they know that. They have no interest into entering into the next phase. They'd rather there's another round of violence, or they'd rather there's another phase of the war. They'd rather something happens with Iran or somewhere else that prevents them from having to give in to that phase. That's really the backstory here. The story is will the world, which is led by the United States in this case, will they be able to rebuild the Gaza Strip without Hamas?
In the time that they have, meaning before the Trump administration will end.
Yes.
Because Hamas understands that the world has maybe 1 or 2 years of interest of dealing with the situation in the Gaza Strip before they move on to something completely different.
Yeah.
So the United States is in pressure to go to phase B. That's why Israel is not reacting more violently against all these violations by the Hamas terrorists in
Well,
Gaza.
we knew it was coming.
Yeah.
We knew it was coming. And I want to say this. That's the headline. Behind the scenes, there's an unbelievable logistical and political effort that's taking place where it's literally dozens of organizations and governments are working to rebuild Gaza without Hamas. And I have to say this is not something you often see in international diplomacy. It is absolutely testament to how serious the Trump administration is about this entire thing, how much effort, money, and people they've put into it. You have CENTCOM on the ground in Israel. You have Jared Kushner. You have Witkoff on the ground consistently in Israel. You had J.D. Vance, the VP in the country just last week, working on exactly this. It's all rebuilding.
We have a joint base. We have a
Exactly.
joint base in an Israeli city called Kiryat Gat. Who ever heard of Kiryat Gat? But now it's in the news all the time.
Importantly,
you know?
unlike previous efforts, it's not Israel leading the effort. It's the United States as part of an international coalition.
Qatar, Egypt, Turkey, everybody
several other
wants
countries who
some
don't want to
more
be
power
named.
in the Middle East are here. Everybody wants a piece in the Middle
And
East.
there's a lot of resources. There are a lot of assets on the ground. It's all actually moving towards a place where this will happen. And I want to say this openly here, as we sort of wrap up this topic. Everyone is working to make sure that the ceasefire is maintained.
Yeah.
So this is sometimes you'll hear these headlines of the U.S. is in disagreement with Israel about different issues. The whole goal here is of this international coalition is to continue the ceasefire agreement, to make sure that it isn't violated, and to make sure that the phase 2 kicks into action with an international coalition. What that does for us, for Israel, is it enters us into a season where there's a partner on the other side in the Gaza Strip who we can talk to about governance, about distributing food, about rebuilding Gaza, about carrying out the peace without the threat of Hamas using all of that's been put in for kicking off the war again. That's a huge thing.
Exactly. And Irvin, because your phone rang, do you have any question regarding to this topic before we conclude?
I do want to say...
Wait. Give it. Come here. Yeah. Come here. First of all, give me your phone. You get it at the end of the tour to Israel. Just kidding.
I do want to say how helpful this is to have the the specifics, the precision on this background work together. The news we hear in Canada often is, oh, the ceasefire is failing, it's a disaster, but this is very, very helpful. So thank you. Please keep this good work going.
Well, keep coming to Israel and visit us in person.
We
Thank you so
paid him
much.
to say that. Anyway, so that's what's really happening on the ground. And what we're looking at, it looks negative. It is a positive. It's a push towards the right direction. And again, if you think of the backstory here, which is Hamas being an affiliate of the Iranian axis of evil, they're being weakened continuously. And there's a lot of international pressure making sure it happens. Which brings us to the second topic today,
Definitely.
our northern border.
But just before that, I ask myself something about Hamas. What if we see Hamas losing here on the ground in Israel, in Gaza, but Hamas is looking forward and seeing what's happening around the world internationally and say, I still have a lot of power. I affecting a lot of people. People shouting, going out, demonstrating for Hamas, generally when they shout Free Palestine. They supporting Hamas. They giving the power. They donating money. I think
I'd say there's two parts to that, though. One of them is that regardless of what you do, there's going to be an anti-Israel and an anti-Semitic core or kernel of people abroad. And there's a huge but here, which is on two directions. One, the war feeds that. So the images coming out of the Gaza Strip feed the anti-Israel machine. They really do. And also, it's important to note that these movements are not grassroots. They're not organic. They're funded by countries such as Qatar. They're funded by entities such as the Muslim Brotherhood. They're not an organic grassroots movement. And when they lose some of their power in the Middle East, they lose the ability to carry out those attacks. And I'd say also differently, you really have to look at the overall geopolitical trend in other countries, where you'll see countries, they become too patient with anti-Western agendas. They allow the rise of Islamic movements inside their country. And then there's a pendulum movement that goes the exact opposite, where people say, what on earth is going on in our country? How can we suddenly not even have Christian symbolism? And they respond to that. And we're going to see that coming in coming years, as we have in the past in certain European countries.
Yeah, definitely. It's 100% a spiritual war. That's why the hatred will keep going up and up, because God keeps working here in the land of Israel and around the world. And the enemies want to destroy this, especially now after Israel have defeated 7 of our fronts. And that's just a miracle. It's not because the IDF is so good. It's because basically God is faithful.
Yeah.
And if we're talking about the situation in Israel, Mati, maybe can you share another amazing thing that despite 2 years of war, the economy is going up in this land?
Yeah, this is once again the miracle of this country, which is we expect war to be devastating and to ravage the economy. And the opposite continues to happen on every level, on economic growth, on our stock market, on Israeli companies still being bought out and going public with technology time and time again, and on international investments coming into Israel. Again, the war affected that to a certain degree, but the overall trend is absolutely positive. And our partner today is a way for people to get on board with what's happening financially in Israel. This isn't an ask for a donation. This isn't an ask for a handout. This is an opportunity for people to invest into the Israeli economy, bless the economy of Israel, but also get a return. Now, again, there's an asterisk here. You never know what happens with investments, but these people are consistent. These people are professional, and I know them personally. So our partner today is Wise Money Israel. They are an investment entity. They're registered both in Israel and in the U.S., and they've been doing this for over 20 years, in this country, in over 30 countries. And if you are a viewer of this show, you can get on board with them, take an investment that wasn't working and invest into the Israeli economy in a safe and professional way in the hands of safe and professional people who I know personally, who you know. They've been working and they've been giving results for a very long time. The link is on the screen or will be on the screen.
It's Wise Money. Again, wisemoneyisrael.com/TBN. wisemoneyisrael.com/TBN. And that's a way to help us also create more content, because all of our partners are helping us produce more content, sending Mati and myself to the field to let you what's happening in Israel, boots on the ground style. Okay?
I want to say one more thing, and this is not in our script about the sponsor. 2026 is going to be the year of rebuilding Israel. And countries always come out of war and they come out kicking and screaming out of a wartime. Always rebuild the economy. There's always economic growth. There's always innovation that comes out of that. And 2026 and 2027 are going to be amazing years for the Israeli economy, because everything that's been sort of, bottled down now is going to explode in a positive way.
Every
the years to come.
technology, it's moved forward. Everything in.
And a lot of economic growth has to do with the perception of a brand. And Israel came out of this war with a brand that went from, we're not sure of your status in the Middle East, to we don't know how you do what you're doing.
Yeah.
And that is going to positively affect the economic outcomes of our country.
After we destroyed Hezbollah.
After we're done with Hezbollah.
Or whatever comes up next.
So we said this whole conversation is about the Iranian evil axis sort of trying to stop them from being destroyed. It's sort of their death kicks and death throws in the Middle East. We talked about Hamas. Now we're talking about Hezbollah. Hezbollah is our northern enemy, the arch nemesis of the state of Israel for 20 years.
Hezbollah used to be the largest, biggest, strongest, richest terrorist organization
in the world.
Yeah. Not just in Israel. They operated cells in South America, in Europe. They have crypto ways of receiving money. They had an economy. They had provided also services to half of the country of Lebanon. They have members of parliament owned by Hezbollah in the Lebanese government. This is a huge financial organization. This organization prevented Bashar al-Assad from losing the war in Syria, the civil war, before he lost it now to al-Julani. So this is a huge terrorist organization that have been threatening the Jewish state with 3,000 rockets per day for a period of months. And that was what we trained for in the army for many, many years, to be under fire while fighting this terrorist organization.
Yeah.
And then came the Beeper attack, then came the aerial strike that destroyed all of their communication centers, and then came the bombing on the Dahya in Beirut that terminated the leadership, including Hassan Nasrallah. Multiple steps according to Mossad intelligence. These are stuff that we need to make a movie about, Mati.
Well, I know several people that are, but we need to do. So, again, Hezbollah was off the headlines for a while, and we were sort of waiting to see them try and regroup. Hezbollah has been violating the ceasefire agreement time and time again. And they're once again trying to see if they can inch forward and challenge Israel's sovereignty over its own borders and the presence of Israeli soldiers inside Lebanon in certain outposts.
Yeah.
And they've been doing it consistently. Again, not surprising. Heavily funded terrorist organization, tens of thousands of soldiers or terrorists that still remain in action, and they are the evil outstretched arm of the Iranian regime. It is obvious that they will try to once again take over, that they will try to once again affect Israel and threaten Israel. But this time around, at least for now, Israel is responding very strongly to that.
Yeah.
The headlines this week are unbelievable when you look at the numbers.
Every morning is 2, 3, 1.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is that Israel has a ceasefire agreement with the country of Lebanon, but not with Hezbollah. And in this agreement, the internationally recognized government of Lebanon should dismantle the terrorist organization Hezbollah and consolidate all the weapons in the country in its own hands. Makes sense, right? That all the weapons will be in the government. That's what we know. But in the Middle East, it doesn't work like this, because the government is afraid of this terrorist organization because it is stronger than the government in many areas. And Hezbollah is not giving up because Iran keeps pumping weapons and money into it from different ways.
Yeah.
So we crack down on their bank accounts in Lebanon. So what they do, they send the money to personal individuals so that they can keep funding their terrorists. Let me give you a very interesting fact, Mati. The daily rate for a member of the Lebanese army is 5 times less than the daily rate of a Hezbollah terrorist.
I believe that.
So if you were a soldier, where would you go to fight?
If
With
you're
the
a soldier
terrorist?
if you're a soldier without values.
Yeah. Or with needs to feed your family. Yeah.
If you're a soldier without values. Because Hezbollah has been destructive to the country of Lebanon, and the Lebanese people know it. But again, what this shows you, the headline is over 20 Hezbollah terrorists killed in a single week by Israel. And this isn't by chance. These are people and each time it's 1 or 2 or 3 in targeted attacks where they're trying to rebuild terrorism infrastructure, trying to rebuild a anti-tank position or a battery of missiles, or to retrieve equipment that was previously damaged by Israeli strikes. So it's a very, very clear indication that they're trying to once again rebuild their balance of terror or intimidation against the state of Israel. Israel is responding to that strongly. And it shows you again, we talked about this conversation in the beginning, all of this is regional. None of it is localized. It's a proxy war where Hamas is one aspect of it that we talked about. Hezbollah is another one where Iran and the backers of Iran are trying to push in all the negative effect that they can into this region to maintain power. And Israel, together with its allies, and this is important, is trying to counter that. How do you counter a country that's been broken economically?
Right now,
What can you do?
You rebuild. That's the only issue is you can't fight evil by just creating more violence and destruction. So to bring back something that's better than what they have, you have to spend much more money and much more time in rebuilding. Because breaking things is very cheap and easy. Rebuilding them is incredibly expensive and complex.
Yeah, a good example for that used to be the Iron Dome anti-rocket defensive system that cost like $50,000 or $20,000 for one interception missile against a rocket that can cost $100 or $1,000 that is fired at Israel.
Exactly.
So defending our lives is a lot more expensive than taking lives from the other side. Exactly. That equation is changing now because of the Magen O anti-rocket laser defensive system that Israel developed in this war.
What's it called? Light beam?
like,
In English?
Light
What
beam.
do they call
I think
beam?
light beam or laser beam. Something like that. Anyway, it cost us like the amount of charging your iPhone.
Yeah, it costs
To intercept the missile.
costs like $1
So
to
that's
intercept.
just amazing, by the way.
Yeah. So, exactly. So back to Hezbollah. Again, the solution here isn't killing more Hezbollah. I mean, it is also killing more Hezbollah operatives, but that's on the tactical level. The strategic solution is strengthening the Lebanese army, making sure Hezbollah does not infiltrate it, rebuilding the Lebanese economy and structure and stability. And that's where the U.S. comes in. That's where the regional pacts come in to really rebuild something where it's not just fighting against terrorists on the ground. That's the only solution to these problems.
Listen, and
Eitan,
the
by
cool
the way,
thing,
on the name of
Eitan.
the soldier
Eitan.
that died, Eitan.
Is that the ground-based or the air-based system? Because
This is the laser dome. It's
Because as I said it, I remember that there were two companies that made it. One was Rafael, and the other one was
I don't remember the
Elbit.
name, but they were
Elbit.
Elbit.
And one of them is the ground-mounted system, and another one is a system that
It's same technology, is just mounted on
that's
planes.
mounted on a plane.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
And I think they have different names.
Yeah.
the test they did on ships actually.
Yeah.
We put it on in the sea.
No, Mati, so the cool thing about Lebanon and the situation now with Hezbollah is that behind the scenes, nobody is officially stating that, but the Lebanese army and government are getting their intelligence related to Hezbollah from Israel and through the United States. But we have a cooperation with countries that we were enemies with for dozens of years. So there is hope that in the coming, 5 years, we'll have an agreement and we can go to Beirut to have some hummus, see how they make the hummus over there.
Yeah, I want to say this because I would love to. I want to say this, which is people need to have patience on these topics. And I don't say this lightly, and I don't say this in a dismissive way. Our biggest prayer should be for the Middle East, that the governments that started these processes have enough patience to wait to see them mature. Because Trump's going to be out of office before this ever sees the full maturity and fruit of what this process needs to be. Because we're looking at rebuilding. What?
Who knows? Maybe he don't.
Legally speaking, according to the current constitution, you should be out of office by the time this matures. And I don't say this lightly. Think about it. You need to rebuild the economy of Lebanon and the political system of Lebanon. That takes time. You need to rebuild the economy and the political system of Syria, a country that spent over 50 years under a dictatorship. That takes time. Same for the Gaza
Took
Strip.
over a dictatorship.
Yeah, a dictator took over a dictatorship. But again, and it goes on and on and on. It's so much time, so much effort, so much money. Unless there's an international coalition, unless we play with the interest of the Turks and the Qataris and the Emiratis and the Saudis, and the list goes on, and the Egyptians and the Jordanians and the Americans, unless everyone gets a piece of the pie and an interest in really rebuilding, it won't happen.
Yes, and we need also to start a process of economic dependency between the Lebanese people and Israel and vice versa.
Yeah.
So that we have this model with Jordan related to water that we are providing the Hashemite kingdom. And this process is like making sure that they need us, we need them, and then we can move forward and not break the peace agreement with the first sign of misunderstanding.
Yeah. And I wish it was more than that, though, because so what you're describing, there's interdependence. That's one thing, where they rely on us because we're a much stronger economy and a military power, etc. But that doesn't really
tourism, whatever. Yeah,
but it doesn't really give you peace. To have peace, you have to replace the operating system. And so the Jordan's a good example of a government that is very, very pragmatic in its nature. The government itself, the people less, which is a topic for a different show. But if you look at Syria and Lebanon, you have countries that have been deeply disillusioned with the government they had up till now. And they're willing to look at something different. I was just this summer on vacation in Greece with my kids. And we had this conversation. I told them, kids, if there was peace in our region, we could drive our car from Israel all the way into Europe. Like we technically could. It wouldn't even take that long.
That would be cool.
It would be very cool. But what I'm saying is there's an enormous dividend of peace. It's a economics term. If peace really rebuilds itself in this region. But to get to that, it's not a bang, a PR event and you're done. It's a decade of work to get to that point. And at the end of which, you rebuild an economy, you rebuild the people, you change the way they talk about themselves. But to do that, you need what's happening right now, both in Hamas and in Hezbollah. You need absolute pressure on the ground on a military level. And then you need an entire global coalition of pressure on those countries to go the right direction. And it's economic incentives on one side, and it's a huge stick on the other that's beating down all the extremists on the other side. It all has to happen at the same time to get to that point. We might get there. It just is going to take a lot of patience and a lot of grit from leadership.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, let's turn to our almost last topic, which is Iran building new proxies in Iraq?
What? No,
I don't know. Have you been reporting on that, Yair?
Yes.
That wasn't a topic on the show.
Oh, sorry. So it's a new topic. Anyway, so Tomer, a question to you.
What?
Is Iran building a new proxies in Iraq?
Generally, it's looked like Iran is refreshing herself with creating more missiles, more going back to the nuclear program. They aggressively disconnected themselves from anyone through the Middle East, and especially with the war. They right now have more sanctions,
but they're still investing in areas in Africa.
Yeah, they're investing in the war in Africa. They're trying to create more proxies, and especially we see that with the Houthis and the support they're getting. And yeah, they trying again to get into Iraq. What really concerning Qatar, the neighbors, especially, and that's why we hope that there will be a change of heart with the Qataris over what's happening.
Yeah, I think people forget that Iran launched attacks against Israel through their proxies in Iraq in the early days of this war.
Yeah.
Through suicide drones that were flown from Iraq towards Israel. Same thing as they did through Yemen. So they're trying to rebuild another Houthi model in Iraq, because this is the model that survived this war. So now they're trying to rebuild Hezbollah, rebuild another Houthi model in Iraq, and then another one in North Africa.
Absolutely.
So
let's wrap this up. I have to run to reserves in just a few minutes. I want to say that one of the biggest stories that broke this week, and we're going to close on this.
But Mati, you need to explain that because me and Yair are...
I wasn't following this story, and it's like the big news here in Israel.
Okay, so this is the biggest political news that's happened in Israel in a year and a half. The whole country's been talking about this for over a week at this point. And I'll start from the beginning. About a year and a half ago, there's a viral video that starts circulating online around the world. It has very likely well over 1 billion views at this point. And it's a video in which a image is presented that makes it look like IDF soldiers are sexually assaulting a Hamas terrorist that was held.
Not just a Hamas terrorist, a Nukhba terrorist from 7th of October.
A vile terrorist.
Yeah, a really, really murderous
and it's a short clip. It looks like IDF soldiers sexually assaulting, and again, they're all dressed, but it's sort of like from the side and from a distance, assaulting a terrorist in a base called Machane Teman, the Yemen camp, whatever, it's a base down south. The name doesn't really matter. Back then, it was a huge political issue. There was a public outcry on the topic.
We are in the Biden administration still. It's
this is before Trump. This video is viewed hundreds of millions, if not billions of times around the world, with the headline, IDF soldiers sexually assault Palestinian. That's the word. They don't say
Palestinian hostages.
Palestinian hostages. It's Hamas terrorists, but
That's
the,
how
the
they
words
equi-
the words don't matter.
It's
And
so
it's
big, it's brought equivalent between our hostages to the murderers that got arrested on 7th of October.
and I want to say this, at the time, this topic was widely discussed in Israeli society. There were people who were arrested over this claim. There were members of the Knesset, our parliament, that were involved. There was a huge issue, and then we didn't hear about it for about a year. It turns out, a year and a half later, almost, since this event took place, that there never was an event, that the video was fabricated by splicing multiple different videos
Of different days.
of different days of different people,
terrorists.
of different terrorists together to make it look like that event took place. And not only that, that someone from within the Israeli system, not just anyone, the chief military, what is she? The legal
Counsel to the military.
counsel to the military, who's a full general in the Israeli army, leaked information knowing that it was fabricated and fake. She was arrested this week. She was forced to resign from. She was apprehended. I don't know if she was fully arrested. She was forced to resign from her role. This is the biggest
They took
political.
her,
I don't know if they fully stripped her of her ranks yet.
everything. She not
Yeah?
getting pension, nothing.
Anyway, it's a huge issue. She lied to the court system, but it wasn't just her. It was an entire system of people that hid information and intentionally,
WhatsApp group with
with a lot of power.
10 people,
Yeah,
something like that.
but intentionally circulated, fabricated evidence. This evidence marked Israel as a pariah, as an army that uses sexual violence against its enemies, which is an absolute lie. The story gets thicker. There's a reason behind this, and this is where it gets crazy.
First, can you explain what kind of soldiers and what unit got arrested?
Yeah, I know some of these soldiers personally. There's a unit called Koach 100, Force 100, which is a counter-terrorist unit within the military police that's supposed to stop riots within prisons of Palestinian terrorists. That's something we had, by the way, several thousand terrorists that were apprehended after October 7th, and they were held in several large temporary camps because we didn't have the
enough jail.
permanent facilities to hold these people. And this force is the one that was accused of it. Again, these are people, and I want to say this just openly without getting too much into the nitty-gritty. These aren't lawyers. These are people that said this is dirty work that needs to be done, and they communicate in a similar fashion. And then on the other side was the military legal council, and they built this. It's mind-blowing, and I couldn't wrap my head around. It doesn't make any sense. Why would people do this? Why would people fabricate?
I asked you when I saw the headline, I told you, Mati, this is not make sense. Why that this lady will destroy her life and take such a big step towards against the law to fabricate something like that?
I thought about it. I think she thought she was doing the right thing. And
How?
she decided that lying and cheating was the way to get about it, because she imagined that something was happening in those facilities. I by chance know some of the people that were involved in that investigation, so I don't want to say more on this topic. But she was personally on a journey to make sure that it didn't happen, that there were no assaults against the terrorists in Israeli captivity, which is the right thing for her to do, by the way. But she took it about 5 steps too far in lying to the court system, in fabricating evidence, in leaking information from investigations that were under lock. The story here for international audiences is that there was an image that was presented that Israeli soldiers sexually assaulted terrorists.
So what?
And
The
it's
army
false.
wanted to show that we take care of everybody and we do find our problems inside the army, because this took us to the high court of law and put us in a bad place.
Yeah. Well, here's the problem. We've talked about this countless times. Where when someone spreads a lie, it takes so long for the truth to go full circle, because the truth is the court system and the legal advisors. They have to investigate everyone. They have to check. They don't know that it didn't happen, and disproving something happened is much harder than spreading a lie.
And by then, it's already
No one
viral.
remembers it now.
It's already viral
There's-
on the news, and the image is that the IDF is not treating the terrorists.
There are hundreds of millions of people around the
Well-
world. By the way, Hamas terrorists inside Gaza, we know this from some of the hostages that were recently returned, they believed it was happening. They tortured Israeli hostages, believing that this event took place, saying this is in retaliation for what you did to our brother terrorists. This is this is what people believe. A year and a half go by, people believe that Israeli soldiers are sexually assaulting Hamas captives. We come to find that none of it is true. It's a big lie. I mean, all of it is a big lie. Not a single person was convicted of doing this because it didn't happen. But this is the problem with the truth. It takes so long for the truth to prove that the lie is false that by the time it comes out, it's almost impossible because no one cares at this point.
Repair that.
You can't repair the image.
By the way, the story have a lot of obstacles, and that lady that we talk about took her phone, ran to the beach, throw it away in the middle of the night.
We're getting deep into Israeli politics.
Yeah, everybody was sure that she got suicide after 12 hours that the army and the police searching for her. Somehow they found her, but they didn't find her phone. Her phone is missing. Then a lot of people and weird people, everybody went to the beach the day after to search that. It was a hype in Israel. It was like people took their kids to search for the phone. After that, they found her Apple Watch today, and they somehow cracking into her thing. She don't giving her password. She's under arrest right now, and the stories keep on going.
Yeah. I have about 2 more minutes, and then I have to leave.
So, Harvey, maybe you can come up to the stage and let us know who is this group, what are you coming to Israel for, and how is it feeling to be here on the ground?
Thank you for coming to Israel.
We love Israel, and all of our group, I want to thank all of them because many people wouldn't come. The representation of what Israel is in the media is terrible, and we're coming here in the midst of all this to say we put our flag in the ground and stand with Israel. We watch you all the time. We love you guys. I want to thank all the people that came with me to join you. And
thank you. Really, thank you.
We pray regularly for you. We watch your podcasts, and we want to thank the great work that you do.
Wow. We appreciate that.
Thank you so much.
It's always nice to see the faces of the people that watch.
Yeah, and definitely, guys, thank you for joining us for the TBN Israel podcast. Mati has to run to an IDF reserve session, and we will be here every day with boots on the ground updates. So if you want to stand with Israel, first of all, I would say pray. Ask God, what should they pray about? Make it personal. Maybe a leader, maybe an IDF soldier, maybe Mati, as he's going to the IDF now to defend all of us. Pray for the hostages that have been returned to their families, but they have a long process of getting back to civilization. Many of them don't know what ChatGPT is because they've been in tunnels for so long. So let's pray for them. Let's keep on praying that God's will be done here in Israel, and keep praying for the peace of Jerusalem.
Hello, this is Mati here in Jerusalem with TBN Israel.
This is Yair Pinto from TBN Israel here in Jerusalem. TBN Israel is keeping viewers informed with Israel-focused news, culture, and what God is doing in this land.
Support TBN Israel today online at tbn.org/Israel. Thank you.